Alright guys, so we've done geometric sequences with the explicit formula, so now we're going to talk about the recursive formula. So the recursive formula is a sub n and then a n minus 1 times r. Then we need to write down what our first term is, or a sub 1. Okay? Alright, so n minus 1 just means the whatever our n is, but the one before that. Just like we did on the recursive formula with arithmetic. Alright, so a sub n is the term's name. And then, just like I was saying, a sub 1 is the previous term in the sequence. Okay, so for example, let's say that a sub n is actually a sub 7. Okay, so we're talking about the 7th term, so that's the term's name. Then if I'm talking about a sub n minus 1, I'm really talking about a sub 7 minus 1, which is really the 6th term. So this means, so the previous would be the one before, so the 6th term, and then is the term's name, which would be the 7th term because we're talking about the 7th here. R is the same thing as it was in our explicit formula, so it's your common ratio. Remember, ratio is a fancy way to say fraction, and that's what's being multiplied or divided to get to the next term. And remember, for this, to find it, so to figure out what the common ratio is, we're going to do the 2nd term divided by the 1st term. Okay, so divide. Don't forget it. Alright, so here we go. We have our formula, we know what our different pieces of our formula mean, and we have our 3 sequences that we're going to practice with. So the first one, what we're going to do is we need to start by figuring out the common ratio. So remember, the common ratio is the 2nd term divided by the 1st term, so we're going to do 24 divided by 48. And then in your calculator, when you do 24 divided by 48, you get 1/2, or you could also write that as 0.5. Okay, so then we're going to write our formula. So it's a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times r, which is 1/2. And then we need to write our very first term of our sequence, which is 48. So this is our formula for the geometric recursive. Now, if I asked you to tell me what the let's say I wanted to know what the 5th term was. What?
Yeah.
We've been doing 5th terms on, or like terms on these ones?
Yeah, just an example, but you could just do like the 3rd term or something. You usually do one that's like
That's right there.
Yeah.
Okay, just kidding. We're gonna do the 4th term. I don't have any on here. We'll come back. Okay, so we're gonna do the next example. So we're going to figure out what our formula is. So we take our 2nd term and we divide it by our 1st term. So we have negative 26 divided by 13. Notice how we have opposite signs, positive, negative. So that means that our value is going to be negative. So when we divide these guys together, we get negative 2. So then we write our formula, a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times negative 2. And then a sub 1, our first term of the sequence, is 13. Okay, and then example 3. So this is our sequence. So we're increasing, so it's going to be multiplying. We're going to take our 2nd term and divide it by our 1st term. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. And then we're going to write our sequence. So a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 times 3, our common ratio, our r, and then we also know that a sub 1 is equal to 2 because that's the first number of our sequence.